Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aldo Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a quick look at the GP of Quebec. Obviously this race starts in like a few hours, so I thought I'd get a video out real quick. I've just been away the last week or so, the last few days at least, so I haven't been able to make a video when it came out, but you know what, better late than never. Tadej Pogačar, most expensive rider in the race. Obviously lots of people will be selecting him. I think Pogačar is almost a bit of a nailed on for like a top 5 as long as he's going okay. It's just really a question of, is Pogačar going to be worth it? If he finishes, let's say, my hypothetical scenario, I think he finishes somewhere like 4th or 5th, but I don't think he'll win. There are going to be riders around him who are going to be scoring similarly, if not a little bit better, who are going to be cheaper than him, because obviously he is the most expensive. I think that he'll be great for Montreal, don't get me wrong about that, but I think that maybe for this one it might be better to go for some more pure kind of punchers, or the riders who are very typically known to do well in this race. Saying that, Pogačar is like the safe pick. He will do well, and I've picked him for every single time that he's been available in any Velogames competition this year, so it will feel a bit weird going without him, but I think that's the strategy which I'm thinking of going with. Speaking of people who are very nailed on to go into a team, Dali, he won last year, he's looking in good form, so I think that he's absolutely, you almost just have to pick Dali. Mohoric was 5th or 6th in this race last year, so therefore I think that he's also a good one. It's going to be him and Zambanini, they seem to be suggesting, are going to be their men for the finale here, although they do also have Boitrago and stuff, Bahrain victorious, but Mohoric was looking good in the Renew Wide Tour, and I think that this is a race which definitely still suits him, and he could also launch like a late attack, and I definitely see Mohoric being a top 10 candidate for sure. Alaphilippe, a strong rider for sure. He was looking decent in the Tour of Britain, although he did end up getting dropped on some stages, but I'm not sure if that's just Alaphilippe's sort of showmanship which was taking over there, but in theory Alaphilippe is the leader for Soudal Quickstep, so I think that he's also a good pick. Benoot, there's also Jorgensen here, obviously. I think for this race it would be better to go for Jorgensen. I think Benoot could certainly do better in Montreal. It could be a good choice to go with both of them in that race in the next couple coming days, but I think that Benoot lacks the real kick required to do well in this race, so I'd say that Jorgensen's the better of those two. Binny, of course, was on the podium in this race last year, and he's still a good pick. He was on the podium in the Bema Classic the other day, despite my trepidation about how he was going. Obviously this is probably a slightly harder race than the Bema Classic. Obviously that was more of like a pure sprint. This is going to be more attritional, but I do think that Binny, based upon how he looked the other day, should be in the mix to try and get on the podium once more. Madouas, again, another one who's probably better for Montreal, very similarly, you know, Nielsen Powers is in that sort of bracket as well. Matthews is well renowned, he's got one of the best records in this race, so again he's one of those like Arnaud Dali who you sort of have to pick just based upon how he's looked in the past, and he's had some decent results recently as well, so I think that Matthews is good. Arambarou, very good in this race last year. He was top 10 in this race. He was 4th actually in this race last year, but he hasn't quite had the form this year. Well, the last like month or so, you know, when you look at his results last year, he did really well in the Deutschland Tour, in the Britannia Classic, and also in San Sebastian, whereas this kind of lead up to this race hasn't been as good for Arambarou, but he should be the man that Movistar are going with, and it could just be that he got unlucky in those races, so maybe they're not as reflective of his abilities as they might seem. So I think that Arambarou, yeah, he's fine. Ayuso, probably not. Baggioli, no. Healy, no. Healy maybe for Montreal. Tratnik, no. Vellens, no. Yates, no. I just think that all those guys are better for the race for Montreal. It's just that they're in this race because obviously they've been flown over to Canada, so they may as well take part. 18 credit riders. I think that the Cofidis duo of Coquard and Zingler is interesting. I'd say that they're the only ones I'd really consider. I don't know who they'd go with. I would say based on recent form it should be Zingler, and he's definitely been one who I've been trying to get into my team for sure. I think that he's just had a good showing of form recently, and I do think he could finish on the podium or be a top 5. I just think that Cockard hasn't been quite as reliable recently. So I think Zingler's your best 18 credit rider for sure. 16 credit riders, again, maybe Bettiol. He has done top 10s in this race before. Ivan Garcia Cortina similarly has done that. I would say that my favourite ones, ones would be Corbin Strong and Tobias Harlan Johannesson. Corbin Strong, obviously, I think he was on the podium of this race last year alongside Dali and Binney, so obviously he's a good one. He left the Vuelta a bit early as well, like stage 16 or something, stage 15, so obviously maybe he's not going to be completely on his knees really tired, so I think that he's definitely got a good shot. And I think that Tobias Harlan Johannesson has looked fantastic recently. He was looking really strong in the Deutschland Tour. You know, he was going up against Pedersen in that uphill sprint. So I think that he's going to be one who people are going to sleep on quite a lot. And I think that that's definitely a good opportunity to try and get a bit of a differential in there. Van Hills I expect to just work for Dali, but maybe have his own opportunity when it comes to Montreal. Schoens, very similarly. I think that he should be a top 20 in this. I'm not sure who Lidl Trek will be going for, but I think that Schoens has got a better shot in Montreal. And I'd say that's really it for the 16 credit riders. 14 credit riders again, Boitrago, possibly, but I think that they'll be going for him in Montreal. Gregoire should be the man for Quebec, and then Madouas for Montreal, so Gregoire's pretty decent as well. Velasco's been in some really good form recently, actually. If you play the Cycling Fantasy app, he's actually 200 points on that, so that's actually a really good pickup for that one. But obviously I don't really do previews for those, but I do play that game, so I thought I'd give him a little bit of a shout out there. Godon I really like at 12 credits. I think he should be the leader for Decathlon. There's no Kuznefroy here launching a late wild attack. Godon was top. He was alright in Bama. He was up there. He was doing decently in Britannia Classic, which I think is a more reflective style of race for Quebec. So I think Godon is certainly one who I'm looking at for putting onto my team. At 12 credits, he's relatively cheap. Honore, they might go with him. They might go with Healy. They might go with Nerurka. But I think Honore's had some decent results recently. He could be a top 15 in my eyes. Alexander Camp, he always seems to do well in this race, but he usually is 6 credits. 12 credits is a little bit more to invest in somebody who hasn't had that great results this year, but he usually turns it on for this race for some reason. They might go with Shackman for Red Bull, but I don't really know who they'll go for. It might be Hindley they might decide to go with, or Wandal, possibly Serrano. If it's not going to be Aram Barouche, it should be Serrano who could be their man. Venturini, I guess, will be the guy that Arkea will be sprinting for. Into the 10 credit riders, I like Laurence, even if his results recently haven't been that great. This is a style of race which suits him down to the ground. He's definitely a really strong puncher. I don't know what his motivation will be like, considering that he's got a contract signed with Ineos for next year. Whether he might be taking his foot off the gas, I don't really know. But he is the leader for Alpecin de Koenig in this race, so why not? I think at 10 credits, he's definitely worthwhile a little bit of a go. Vermaak has been looking really strong recently as well, from San Sebastian to Lidl, the Deutschland Tour. Vermaak has looked really strong. Williams has just won the Tour of Britain. They might go with him. I'd say they should be going with Corbin Strong, and Williams will be their man for Montreal. But in theory, Williams, if he's on, say, lead-out duties, he could definitely pick up a top 20 himself, if not a little bit better. Into the 8 credit riders, Berkmo's has been looking really strong recently. My worry with him is that, obviously, they've got DeLee and Van Hills, I'd say, as higher priority riders than him. But in theory, he could get assist points and maybe sneak a top 20 just because he's in really good form. Sean Quinn possibly, but again, like I said, there's Paulus, there's Healy, there's Nerurka, there's Honore. I don't know who EF will be riding for. I expect Sean Quinn might just be a domestique all in all, to be honest. Connor Swift might get the nod for Ineos. He was looking very, very active in the Tour of Britain, and I don't think Ineos really have a big leader in this race. There's no Ethan Hayter, there's no Tom Pidcock, for example, so maybe Connor Swift could get his own opportunity to get a top 10. Into the 6 credit riders, you will likely need a couple of these, or maybe a few of these. I'd say that Sean Flynn has got a good shot of having his own freedom. He was strong in the Tour of Britain, And I don't think that DSM really. Well, they've got Vermarker, yeah, they might go with him. Marcus Houligaard, possibly. I don't. But they might work for Tobias Harlan, Johannesson. So you're really looking at kind of the super domestiques here in this category who might sneak a good result. Paul Lepera, obviously French champ. Hasn't really done too much since then. But again, this is a race which suits him. So I'd say that Lepera is definitely still worthwhile putting on your team. Nerurka hasn't looked too great the last couple of races in Italy, but he has had some very, very good performances on this sort of terrain in Dauphiné and Tour of Poland. So I think that Nerurka is certainly up there as one of the best 6 credit riders, alongside the one which I'm trying to get to, which is Zambanini. He is the best one, without a doubt. Zambanini was so strong during the Tour of Britain. Bahrain victorious indicate that he will be like a protected co-leader with Mohoric in this race, so Zambanini is easily the best one. Wandal I do like, just because Bora don't have a seemingly out-and-out leader, and I think that Wandal goes well over the punchy terrain and could pick up a top 15 or a top 20. And then the 4 credit guys, to be honest with you, I'm looking mainly at guys who get in the break or guys who will maybe pick up assist points. So Ineos, I think, should be getting in the break. So maybe Andrew August or Michael Leonard could be good. Baudin might get assist points, or he might also fight for his own opportunity. Little bit of a trepidatious one though. Gruel actually is a good sprinter for Groupama. I just think that he'll be on domestique duties, but honestly, he could pick up a top 25 or 30 at an absolute push. He might do. There is Michael Leonard. Obviously, he's Canadian. He's on Ineos. I reckon he'll get in the break. So that's a pretty safe one to pick up. I don't know, 45 points or whatever it is. Schmid as well. Obviously, he might get in the break because he's American and it's probably like kind of a home race, but kind of not. Harrison Wood maybe for the assist points on any of the Cofidis guys. This is my team at the moment. Arambaru, Dali, Matthews, Godon, Zambanini and Tobias Harlan Johannesson. Going with guys who are largely just going to try and finish inside the top 10. I think every single one of these has got a chance. Maybe Zambanini, no, but he's 6 credits. So he's just filling out the team. But let me know what you're thinking in the comment section down below. Are you thinking of going with Pog or without Pog? And yeah, be sure to put your teams in the comment sections down below, and I'll be sure to try and get back to you before the race starts in about 4 hours time. So all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the Montreal video, which I'll get out tomorrow or the day after. Salut.